Let me make sure.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, this is Jeffrey Mangus with Books Build Leaders podcast, and thank you so much for joining the show today. And if you're new here, I really encourage you to subscribe to the show and like the show and share the show with anyone that's interested in your world on writing a book. Today, I have Shelley Moench Kelly. She is a fantastic ghostwriter, and I was excited to get her on the show today and talk about ghostwriting and books and how that is done in our world. So welcome, Shelley.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey, for having me. It's an honor.
Oh, you're welcome. So, um, so tell us, what got you, Shelley, what got you started in ghostwriting? How did it come about in your life? And just tell me all about that.
Yeah, it's a long, rambling road through hell and back. When I graduated from college, I got my master's degree in finance and went to work as an auditor at Farmers Insurance many decades ago. And I became a CFO by the time I was 32, and I was working for HUD in Los Angeles. And I realized that after many people insinuating with the question, how'd you get that job? Uh, that my honor and integrity were being questioned, and I didn't appreciate that. And so I took a year off um, in 2000 to just decompress and find out what I really wanted to do and be in my life and the type of person I wanted to be. Because up to that point, everything was very regimented, very corporate, very executive. And I knew I had those leadership skills, but I'm at nature a very creative, shy, introverted person, though you probably wouldn't guess it now. I just turned 60 this year, and I thought, all right, I finally found myself. But anyway, um, I applied for a freelance editing job at McGraw-Hill in Los Angeles and did that for a couple of years. And they hired and fired consultants on a rolling basis.
Yeah.
Get them through reprint cycles for their college and high school accounting textbooks and other textbooks. And that opened my eyes to the whole world of editing. And I thought, well, I don't have a degree in communications or journalism or anything, but this seems um, easy and fulfilling, and I like it, you know.
Mhm.
And anyway, I went from there to a small trade publishing house in Van Nuys, which is a suburb of Los Angeles, and was there for 10 years. And
Great.
in 2015, after my 10-year mark, I thought, you know what? My parents had passed away. It's time to move. Los Angeles is too crowded, too hot, too expensive, too unfulfilling. You know, I'd
Mhm.
lived there since I was a teenager, and it was great back in the 70s and 80s and part of the 90s. But then it just got to reality show. So my husband and I moved to New England in 2015.
Mm.
I had one client. I had one freelance client at the publishing house in Los Angeles. They did trade magazines in the beauty
Yeah.
arena and um, plastic surgery, transplant, and dialysis directories, that type of thing. So it
That's
was a fascinating introduction into the world of further editing, writing articles, you know, 2,500 word articles, that type of thing. But I didn't really breach the threshold of ghostwriting until 2016.
oh wow.
And yeah. And so come to think of it, it came around because of the single client I had when we moved to New England, and that was an international travel guide. And the fellow that was my supervisor said, "Hey, what else do you write?" And he referred me to my first ghostwriting client. And
Great.
you know, the term "fake it till you make it" seemed to have done well there because he saw that I'd worked for McGraw-Hill, and he kind of took that and ran with it. And so that was my introduction. And since then, I've ghostwritten 9 books,
For
and
you.
I
Good for you.
intersperse it, you know, through each year with um, um, a yearly editing project that I do for a company called the Prop Store out of London and Los
Mm.
Angeles that does um, movie and television prop auctions and you know, a host of other smaller projects to keep a good
Right.
balance. But that's how I got into it. So I've been lucky to do about a book a year. This year I have 2 books on my calendar for the
Good for
next
you. Yeah.
year. And I will write anything. There was even a time when I thought to myself, I will never write this type of book for this type of person. Yeah. One of my clients is a former assassin. So
Wow,
that went out the window.
that's incredible.
It's not that my values are taking a nosedive. It's just the older I get, the more I realize that you can't just sit around and grow posies in your garden every day. You've got to have the adventure. And the more interesting clients I have are the most fulfilling projects I've worked on
Right.
and have become friends. So I'm happy to say that the assassin is a good friend of mine now. Thank God
Yeah.
for more than one reason.
That's a great story. I love that. I mean, honestly, I'm the same way as far as I do have some hard rules on, certain things that I won't write about. But my rule of thumb is if it doesn't hit those benchmarks, which is, it's like child pornography, all that, I don't touch that kind of stuff.
Right, right.
But if it doesn't hit, I mean, I will write anybody's story because it's their story. It's not mine.
Yeah, exactly.
And it is fascinating to get to learn and learn about these people, their lives, and I love that aspect of the job. So it's great. Speaking of Los Angeles, I lived in Los Angeles as well. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I played music professionally. I was in the it was in the late '80s, and I was there playing in Hollywood and Sunset Strip, and
Nice.
yeah, so I lived in Torrance, so I understand in the '80s, LA was just a great, exciting place to be in.
It was.
It was
fantastic.
just vivid, it really was. And I'm actually writing a memoir right now on my music days, and most of it is in about my time in Los Angeles.
I
So.
will buy it the minute it comes out.
Great. Yeah, the book's called Blues Lessons, and I'm really excited about that. And the book is almost finished. It's been a labor of love, actually. That kind of.
Congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm here. This podcast is for you, but talking about that real quick. I love writing memoirs, and especially I've found that being a business book ghostwriter, that most of the business books they're a hybrid. It's a cross between memoir and business, because no leader, no CEO, no C-suite person or entity has got to their level without going through something in their life.
Sure.
Experiencing travesty, experiencing challenges, overcoming things. So their story has to be involved, and I love that type of thing. Right. But it's been I took a course with a gentleman by the name of Christian Epting. Chris Epting is a professional memoirist. He's written for Titus, Leif Garrett, John Oates. He's a great guy. Yeah. And Chris and I have become really great friends, and I've taken 2 memoir classes with him to improve the craft.
Right.
It helped me with the book, and it changed me. His class changed me. And it showed me, not just how the processes of memoir writing, but how to really use it as a healing thing, because that's what it's all about, is to heal.
Yes, of course it is.
So
it works on both. It works both ways. You're not just the conveyor of that information, of that story. If you're, to me anyway, and I write almost strictly memoir, if you're any kind of an empath, it affects you almost as deeply as it affects your client. And
wow,
yeah,
that's
with me.
I want to explore that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, not at all.
Because I have determined, and it's just here recently, that I am an INFJ personality.
Yes, I am too.
And I just caught that. I just realized I caught that when you said empath, and then you also said you were, introverted, which I am too. And the reason I want to talk about that for a second is, being a musician, and I just told you I was in Los Angeles, I was in Hollywood, playing all these clubs, and toured the East Coast and toured the country for years. My personality, I didn't realize that was my personality, and I always fought that. It was always this trying to be an extrovert, trying to be out there, but the inside of me was always just struggle. Just I can't, I don't want to, and this job as a ghostwriter fits me to the T with my personality. And I love, and yet you're right, being an empath, and I talk about this with my wife, it's probably the most challenging part of my life. And I'll explain that. And maybe you, and I wanted you to talk about how you feel about this.
Sure.
Is being an empath, no matter who I'm with, even if it's on Zoom, I can feel how they feel.
Yeah.
I take it on.
Yes.
And especially with my children, I have 5 grown children, grandchildren.
Yeah.
But when everyone's around, I'm very in tune with how they feel, and it affects me.
Yes. Yes.
And
It does.
it affects me deeply. And sometimes it's like very hard, because when someone's feeling down or they're upset, it hits me like a wall,
Yes.
And I never understood it until this year. I read a book by Laura I think it's Spalding. She wrote a book called The INFJ Writer.
Oh wow. I'm gonna have to check
Oh,
that
you're gonna have to, because it changed my life.
Wow.
Reading that, realizing that there's a whole group of people like us that are out there that feel this empathy and compassion for what people are going through, and it affects your life. It affects your mood, So I really appreciate your honesty on that, because it's hard to admit that in the extroverted world that we live in.
Yeah, it's really hard. And in fact, my husband and I joke, or I joke with him, that we're both introverts, and yet we realize that the world is generally an extroverted world with people in it that are massive extroverts. And I always joke with him, though it's not a joke, that every time someone comes into our home, or we're out having lunch with folks, even if we've been friends with them for 30 years, I always need a period of recovery.
Yes.
Right.
Recovery. I need to decompress.
Decompress.
I
That's
I
the word
need
I
to
was thinking.
analyze things. Do you
Yeah,
do that as well?
I do. I do. Um, uh, I won't need that today after our Zoom call, because
Good.
for just some reason, and I can tell already that, yeah, this is energizing me. And I don't say that because this is a podcast and,
Right.
having a Zoom call over it. Um, there are very definite situations that just exhaust me. And in fact, to that end, I have a client now, um, for whom I'm writing a memoir. And the claim is that this person is stupendous and has achieved much in their life.
Hmm.
And okay, the person graduated from college at an Ivy League and graduated from an advanced degree,
Hmm.
and has never married, has no children. And I have no examples of this person's extraordinariness.
Right.
And
I
from
get
this, I have to craft a memoir.
that. Ah,
And this has been the most trying experience for me, even though I can weave a story out of nothing.
right.
The
Right.
way I have to cope with this person is that I have taken up an insane amount of crafting, which I haven't done in years.
Right.
All of a sudden, I'm diamond painting, I'm needle pointing, I'm cross stitching, I'm painting, I'm crocheting. Um, I have 12 projects right now as works in progress.
Yeah.
Help me decompress and deal with this person,
Interesting. Really.
because there is really no story to tell.
Right. And that's very challenging when you're trying to tell a story.
Yeah.
There's no story. I get that's very hard. Absolutely. Yeah.
And yet with this person, there's security, security for the next 6 or 8 months.
Good for
And
you.
so, for that, I hate to use this phrase, but it's true. I am whoring myself out for this project, because, it's not that we're poor, but we're not millionaires either. And that's the reality of it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You have to pick and choose the projects that you're willing to do and that you can stand doing. And I almost can't stand doing this one. Um,
I totally understand that. I mean, I interviewed for a project a couple weeks ago,
mhm.
and it was, the pay was probably going to be really great,
Right.
but me, just the author and I, he was not a bad person, just he was who he was, but I knew instantly that I just physically couldn't work with him. I knew that it was so strong, and that I didn't take the project. And my wife was like, "Are you crazy?" I'm like, "No," because I know there's another project down the line that is more beneficial, and it may not pay as much, but more, there's more out of it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I didn't want to be miserable working with the person.
Yeah.
Again, it wasn't his, it was just, I just knew. And I guess it's that INFJ thing again,
Yes.
that empath feeling, like I'm learning to listen to that voice.
Yeah.
I'm learning to listen to that.
Yeah.
And we have to be choosy as ghostwriters. And that kind of leads me into my next question. What do you love about the job? What is it about ghostwriting that you love? And then we're going to talk about some other things on that. So,
I love making my clients cry.
there you go. I love that, because when they cry, you cry. I do. I have cried with my authors for sure. Yeah.
And I love being able to, whether it's a memoir just to get the story out for one's family, or a memoir that explains things or helps people or guides people in some way, to help get the camel off someone's back.
Yes, that's a great analogy. I've never heard that before. I love that. That's great.
And help them heal, and I'm
Yes.
fortunate that I've had clients that are in it for, with the exception of this one person, the crafting person.
Yeah.
All of my clients have approached the process and the fees involved and all of that with the idea only of getting the camels off their backs. They're not approaching it from, I want to be rich and this is a Netflix movie.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a red flag for me, for
Oh,
sure.
yeah. I'm going to buy a yacht. And there's a deeper organic reason for why they're employing me, and I want to do my best by them, as
That
well
is,
as whom I'll deem, as I mentioned, the crafting person.
yeah. Yeah.
But that memoir, truly, I could not care less about. And yet I owe it to myself as a professional to put all I can into it, as
Yeah.
I would for people that I actually do care about.
Right.
Yeah.
That is, I love these conversations, and because it always goes deeper than we expect. And
Yes.
I've actually posted about this. I've written articles about it. I call it the epiphanal moments, or the mirror moments. James Scott Bell, he's a great fiction writer. I've read every book of his. He talks about the mirror moment in fiction. There's also mirror moments in nonfiction.
Yeah.
Mirror moments are when the author comes to a point or a realization that changes their life through the writing.
Yes.
And I love that aspect of being there, and talk about crying with authors. It never fails. It never fails that happens. And I'm so glad we're talking about it, because I get tired of talking about fees and money and ROI, return on investment, which is all important to the book landscape. I get that.
Sure.
But we're talking about the spiritual side of writing.
Yes.
That is probably overlooked, extremely overlooked. That is so, any listener here today should take this to heart. If you are an author listening to this podcast today and you're thinking about writing a book, this is what you need to consider: is how it's going to change your life.
Yes.
How is this book going to change your life besides monetary reasons?
Right. Right.
And I love that you brought that up. Thank you for that, because
you're welcome.
It's such a focus always on finances and money and what can I get out of it.
Yeah.
But it's beyond all that. It's the changing of your life. My first book, I've told this story in my other podcasts. I mean, I got started in ghostwriting when I lost my left leg below the knee in 2017.
Yes.
I was flat on my back and I couldn't do anything in my life. My world stopped.
Yeah.
And the only way to deal with that grief and the depression was to write. I journaled, and that journal ended up becoming my first book. Now, was that book great? I can honestly say no. But what it did for me was it allowed me to do the deepest introspection and find out who I truly was and what I wanted to do with my life.
Yes.
And then my first ghostwriting project came about after that. And a friend of mine said, "Hey, would you ghostwrite a book for me?"
Yeah.
So I ended up selling that book right out of the gate to HarperCollins Leadership. I was thrust from nowhere, nobody knew me, to suddenly I was working with some of the top big 5 publishers and editors in the world.
Yeah.
So I was scared out of my mind, you know.
Of course.
And being an INFJ, you can imagine.
Yes.
You know, so, but I didn't realize I was an INFJ at the time. So it was really, really something to deal with, but I'm proud of that. But that book became a bestseller and started a whole new career.
So fantastic.
Well, thank you.
Thank you that you mentioned that, because in 2018, my husband and I were vacationing in Manhattan, as one does. We live in upstate Vermont, and so there is nothing up here. And so
right.
Geez, you know, going from LA to a very small town of a couple thousand people, honey, I just have to go to the city, please.
Right.
So we were boarding a tour boat, and I fell and broke my femur.
Oh my gosh.
And, spent 3 months in a nursing home. And as with you, even though it wasn't an amputation, I thought, I'm never going to walk again, you know, because my leg is in a halo. And at the time I had 1 plate and 17 or 20 pins in it.
Gee, many Christmas.
Yeah, was not allowed to do any weight bearing for 3 months. And I thought to myself, well, you know, every day I was just making notes of when I have to see the doctor, the surgeon, go to physical therapy, all of this.
Right.
And just going through all these thoughts, you know, you're in a room without your husband or your wife or your family for months. And that's when I wrote my first, and so far only, but hopefully not only, book. And to find that, I know this is a little off topic, I didn't write it to get rich. You know, it went up on Amazon. And I found out a few months later that a friend of mine from college had to put her mother in hospice at end of life. And after she read my book, she realized that something was wrong with her mother.
Yeah.
Her mother was in excruciating pain.
Wow.
And she said, "Shelley, it's because of your book that I was able to investigate and discover that the care team had inadvertently switched my mother's medical or medicine protocol. So she was taking daytime meds at night and vice versa.
Oh my goodness.
They were not doing her any good. They were in fact having the reverse effect.
Reverse effect. Yeah, that's awful.
Pain management was all off. And she said, it's because of your book, which was basically about my accident, not the details of it necessarily.
Sure.
Much as the experience in a nursing home for 3 months. And I'm sorry for the phone.
Oh, that's okay. It's okay.
My husband got, yay. Anyway, she said, I never would have known to advocate for my mom. It was a costly nursing facility with, you know, 5-star reviews all up and down the coast. I never would have thought of it had it not been for your book.
Good. That is such a great story. I love that. I worked in the
wealth I need from
myself.
it.
I'm sorry.
That's all the wealth I need from it.
Well, that's it. You know, my first, again, we're talking about my first book. I had no dreams of making any money from it. I just needed to get it out. It had nothing to do with finances or, hey, I want to be nothing. I mean, that was never in my bingo card. It just wasn't, you know, it was from the heart. It helped me sort through feelings, emotions, the situation, and the only way to do it. And it was a pure organic thing. And that's what, going back to what we were talking about, authors that are listening to this podcast, and if you're thinking about writing a book, think about that organic way of writing. You know, yes, you're hiring a ghostwriter, but it's a way to get your thoughts and to sort through your feelings. And that is way more value than money, you know? So I'm all about that. I totally agree with that. Yeah. So you being a ghostwriter and who you are and with your business, what disadvantages do you think ghostwriters have in today's society? What do you think is the biggest challenges for ghostwriters?
Yeah,
and
there's
clients.
several in my mind that are equal in
Yeah,
terms of the challenge level. And the two most significant to my mind, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, are Chat GPT and other AI
excellent. Yeah,
platforms.
yeah,
And the assumption by clients and potential clients that, why do I have to pay you 5 or 6 figures to write this? You're just a writer.
that's exactly right.
And
That's what we were talking about earlier. That,
yeah,
and this is one of the purposes of this podcast, to let people understand, to let them know that uh, our fees are not. I mean, yes, they pay the bills, and yes, they, we have to be able to keep the lights on to do our work.
yeah,
But it goes beyond. It's about, when you're alone in your chair and you have nobody driving you but you,
yeah,
and you have got your author's material, and you're trying to capture their voice.
yeah,
There's no one to help you. You're parachuting into the sky.
yes,
You are, and it's every single day. It's a leap. It's a leap out of faith,
hmm,
of belief in yourself, and our fees is the value there. Our fees should
yeah,
show the value of what we bring to the table. So I totally agree with you.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
But I want to talk about Chat GPT.
yes,
This It's such a huge. I mean, we obviously know this has been bombastic in our industry.
mhm,
Of course, just like anything else, I see Chat GPT and other type of AI platforms, whether it's Merlin or Jasper or all these other things. They're
yeah,
all great tools,
hmm,
but and I've talked about this. I'm the biggest advocate on. It's a word tool. They're tools. I
yes,
use them for research, to
sure,
verify some things, maybe
yes,
find quotes,
yeah,
maybe generate some ideas on that kind of thing. But when it comes down to the actual writing, there's no algorithm, there's no artificial intelligence algorithm out there that can replace the human side, the
yeah,
emotions,
yes,
the phrasing,
yeah,
the diction, the tone, the style. It's
hmm,
impossible. And I
agreed,
and you're right. Authors come. It has, to me, it's made a negative impact on
yes,
people thinking, hey, I can just get AI to write my book. I can do it in an hour
yeah,
and I'll be done.
yeah,
Yeah, you can, but it will be work that you run the risk of plagiarism. You run the risk of copyright infringement, and you also run the risk of just looking bad. you
yeah.
know, I mean, I wouldn't want my life story to be done by artificial intelligence. No way.
No, I wouldn't either. And, my attitude on that is um, to each his own. And there are people out there, professionals and not, who will find advantage with these AI platforms and programs. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they're all bad or that they're
No,
bad.
yeah, I'm not saying that either. I
Yeah,
think they're great things as great tools. Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, and we're fortunate to be alive in a time that technology is as it is, you know,
Yeah.
even with basic telephones, and then communication, and you and I having this Zoom call, even though we're states apart,
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
is fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. But to my mind, there has to be um, a reserve in not just relinquishing all that you have, whether you're the client or the author or the ghostwriter or whatever your role is, not relinquishing all that you have to something that is automated.
Exactly. Exactly right.
Because then you get iRobot, and who knows what would happen, in a doomsday situation of
Exactly.
that ilk.
Yeah,
Really,
I totally agree with you.
yeah,
Completely. I just finished a book for two surgeons on artificial intelligence in
yeah,
healthcare, and I
mhm,
learned so much about algorithms and artificial
yeah,
intelligence that I definitely know that my thoughts are correct. These things are the the data that's put into Chat GPT or whatever that is.
yeah,
It's inputted by an individual, a person, a data scientist or a data entry person. It's stuff that already exists.
yes, yeah,
And that's where, someone out there that's thinking that they can write a cheap book and do it fast. Yeah,
hmm,
you can do it all day long, but
of
it's not going
course,
to make any impact. It's not, it's
no,
just not.
It's,
you know, that's why when it first came out, you know, everybody was like, oh, you know, ghostwriters are going to be null and void. You know, no one's going to need us. I never thought about a second of. I didn't fear it at all because I knew
yeah,
there's no way.
agreed. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And taking that a little step further is my husband and I were not blessed with kids. We've had bulldogs and we'll continue to have them,
I love
surrogate
bulldogs.
babies. Good. Yeah, I'll send you pictures.
Please do. Yeah.
Yes. Um, we realize too that there's the propensity for the younger generations to be influenced by AI. And you find this in what they accept because they're young, right? They think that
Mhm.
everything they read and see and hear and witness is factual.
Right.
And for AI to insert itself in our society, in our world, and have young people be influenced by that and
Yeah.
not have either the age, the wisdom, the knowledge to question that is overwhelmingly frightening to me,
Yes.
you know. Um,
Well, we going back to real quick, I didn't interrupt you. Going back to what we were talking about at the very beginning of the podcast was about being empathic and how it's an extroverted world, even with artificial intelligence. I mean, from the time that Steve Jobs come out with the iPhone,
mhm.
everyone became a branding company. Everyone became an extroverted because suddenly you could video yourself, you could take pictures of yourself all over the place. You could do all
Right.
these things. It opened up Pandora's box there,
Mhm.
and Chat GPT and artificial intelligence falls right into that because all
Yes.
these extroverted type of actions, you know, it just kind of falls into play, and that's where
Mhm.
you got to be real careful. Exactly.
Yes, I agree.
Exactly. Yeah.
I agree. It's
Um,
a double-edged sword.
it is a double-edged sword. And again, I use it. I admit I use it, but I use it as a tool. I don't ever
Sure.
use it um, as a crutch or something that takes place of the actual writing.
Yes.
Never, you know.
Yes.
And I think any ghostwriter out there, I'm confident that anyone out there that's a ghostwriter that's listening to this as well, it feels the same way. You know, we take pride in our work. We take pride in creating a narrative that's genuine and authentic and honest and open for our authors, and that's the only way to do it is and not use artificial intelligence. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for letting me share that. I
Oh,
appreciate
of
that.
course.
So
Anytime.
on a good positive note, what do you love most about your ghostwriting career? What do you love most about the writing, or what is it that what is that you love about it?
Um, Two things. I love the freedom it affords me
Yes.
because after leaving corporate America in 2015, I have never looked back. I've never regretted anything. Uh,
Yes.
Ghostwriting and freelancing has its highs and lows, where sometimes you're looking for quarters in the couch cushions, and other times, you're planning a European vacation. So,
Right. Love
but it's
that.
you know, but it's given me absolute freedom in whom I get to take on as clients.
Yes.
And, there was a time when I was first starting that I felt I had to take on every client that came my way because there might not be another around the corner.
Right.
And as I've grown older and become more experienced, I realized there's always someone around the corner. You know,
Yes.
they
I
they
love that.
come
Yeah,
at
that's
at the moment when you're going ramen again for dinner tonight, honey. you know, back in college. Um, anyway, so
back on the road again like I
back
was.
on the road
Yeah.
again. See, so the freedom it's given me, and also the incredible joy I have from being able to share my life and have my clients share their lives on a very, very intimate level
Yes.
with me,
Yes.
that they might never have been able to share with anyone, even in their own families
That's
or
exactly right
amongst
because
their friends.
you're an outside entity. You're not family, and you're someone that you can they can trust, and that's I
Yes.
love that aspect of it as well. That you're hearing these stories, and I know they're confidential, and I know that they're sharing something that's in their heart that they couldn't share with anyone else. That's a great thing to be a part of.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it
Yeah.
really is. And when people ask me what I do for a living, who don't know the field or sometimes don't know me that well, I'll explain that I'm a writer and a ghostwriter, and
Yeah.
most of them, you see the wheels going off. Hey, does she write ad copy?
Yeah.
What? I don't know.
Right,
And I
right.
just tell them I'm a storyteller
Very good. I
because
love
at the most humble, that's what I am, you know.
that. Is beautiful, and I love that. Thank you for that's
Okay.
great. I just, I mean, that warms my heart, because
Oh,
that's what we are. We are
we are
storytellers.
storytellers.
You know.
We're interpreting the stories, whether it's, a how-to business book, a self-help book, a memoir, a thriller, doesn't matter to me. Um, we're interpreting those for people who don't have the same voice or skill that we have
That's
in
right.
interpreting those stories.
Yeah,
They have
that's,
the stories to tell.
yes, and that's a beautiful way of putting it. Thank you so much for that. That's really great. So, Shelley, so how can people get in touch with you? How can they reach out to you if they're interested in learning more about what you do?
Well, thank you for giving me this opportunity. My website is smkwriter.com. That's S as in Shelley, M as in Michael, K as in Kelly, WRITER, smkwriter.com.
Great.
The contact form there. They can also um, reach me on Facebook, but they'll just have to copy my name from the website onto
Sure.
Facebook. It's a weird spelling of my. Just do it. Just copy the name from the website onto Facebook if you want to private message me that way. But it's easiest on the website.
Sounds great. Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, Jeffrey,
It's
thank you for the opportunity.
oh, absolutely, and we'll do it again soon. Again, we're going to do
Yes.
this again. It's really a lot of fun, and really enjoyed meeting you. And I look forward to seeing your work out there, and seeing you progress in your career. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Books Build Leaders podcast. This is Jeffrey Mangus. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.